Did you notice what he did there? He didn't just summarize the events. He didn't say, oh yeah, back then I was at customs and the agent asked me what I was doing and I liked her and I was very surprised. He doesn't do that. He doesn't summarize the events. Instead, he zoomed into the moment of the story. The best stories don't just summarize events. They don't stay at that helicopter level. They zoom into the moment. They take us into the trenches.
Zoom
They let us
into
be
the
part
moment.
of that physical moment. The good thing is, it's not that difficult. I'm now going to show you 5 techniques that you can use in all of your stories. First technique, location. Say where you are. The best stories start by stating the location. Where are you physically? Example, 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting on my couch in my living room, taking a deep breath. Or September 2019, I'm standing in front of the conference room, ready to walk inside. Now, why does it matter to state the location? Because the moment you say conference room or living room, your audience will start to visualize it. They're like, oh yes, I know conference room, and they start to visualize their version of that conference room. Now, beginner storytellers, they often do the mistake that they give too many details. They're like, oh, in that conference room there was a big table, a television, and a wooden floor. Don't do that. Don't do that. It doesn't matter. Just state the location. As long as they can visualize it, it doesn't matter all the details. They have their own version of that location. Second technique, actions. What are you doing in that story? Instead of giving way too much context about all the random stuff that doesn't matter, just say, what are you doing in that specific moment? That can be walking, biking, shouting, reading, waiting, whatever it is. Just state the action, state the verbs. Examples. I'm in my office, I open my laptop and start reading a message by my manager. Or 2 weeks ago, I'm at the airport waiting in line at security. Now, why does it matter to state the actions? Because it brings in forward momentum. It takes the listener right into the moment. When you do that, your audience will immediately know that you won't waste their time. You're straight away taking them to the most important part of the story. Third technique, thoughts. What are you thinking? We as humans have thousands and thousands of thoughts every single day. A lot of those thoughts are hopes, dreams, plans, fears, worries, crazy thoughts. Now, share some of those thoughts of that crucial moment of the story. Example, instead of saying, I was excited to meet my crush, say, I thought, this will be so cool, right? Finally, I can see her after all that time. Or, instead of saying, I was very disappointed about that presentation, say, I thought, oh man, this is bad, right? Everyone will think I'm stupid. I can never go back there. Do you see the difference? It's a tiny tweak, but it makes any story more interesting. But hey, a common mistake is that people share thoughts that sound too professional, too intellectual. They say something like, I thought this
Storytelling.
represents
We are
a
in a
supreme opportunity.
workroom,
Would you have thought actually something like that?
and I'm preparing the most beautiful
So what
pear
you want to
in
do
the
is
world.
share your thoughts. Give us the
Look
raw,
at this.
unfiltered thoughts. Give us
This
those
is
little bit like ranchy,
this
juicy,
is better than
neurotic
art.
thoughts. Now that will make
You
your
put
story
art
more
on a wall and it
Fourth
stays
technique,
there
emotions.
without
What are you
anything
feeling? The
accomplishing
best
for you.
stories, they're emotional.
And
They
here you
take the
have
listeners on this
flip-flops
emotional journey. And now,
that
with the thoughts of the
actually
previous technique, you know now one technique.
make you feel
But there's
better,
another.
more
The simplest way
healthy.
is to just state an emotion. So you say something like, I was disappointed, I was relieved, I was happy. Now that is pretty standard, right? That is what most people do. But it's still an ideal because it is not really visual, right? When you hear someone saying, I was disappointed, well, you cannot visualize it. And so the better way is to show the emotion. Show how it looks on the body, on the face, when you experience that emotion. Let me give you some examples.
Show
Instead of
emotion.
saying, I was relieved, say, in that moment, I leaned backward and let out this big, or instead of saying he was anxious, say, he kept tapping his pen on the table, and he kept glancing up to the clock every few seconds. Do you see the difference? Showing the emotion makes it much more visual. It takes
Show
us
the
into
emotion.
specific moment of the story. Technique number 5, dialogue. What are you hearing? Many of your stories will have more than one character.
Let's go.
Maybe a manager, your friend, co-worker, your dog, whoever it is. Now, what did the character say in that crucial moment of the story? What were the exact words? Examples. Instead of saying, my friend was very disappointed, Say, in that moment, my friend looked at me and said, Philip, what on earth was that? Or instead of saying, my manager was very happy with my work, say, in that moment, my manager looked at me and said, wow, that was really the best presentation you've ever given. Now, do you see the difference? Dialogue is such a simple tool to make any story much more interesting. It is actually the tool
I did
use
one.
but I guess there's just one thing to keep in
Shut
mind.
up. I did one lawyer yesterday because it's kind of complicated system with this glue. It needs to be done 2 times. It's funny because when I bought this glue I was testing different glues. If you ever tried to create a product or something from real materials, then you probably know that it doesn't work for the first time, so you try different materials, glues. However, I had very interesting experiences because for some customers flip-flops were six years, and then for other customers that bought at same year, because I would say, okay, maybe I changed glue that time, so that's why some people had better than others. But for some, same glue, same year, they called me after 1 month, flip-flops are broken. So that was, imagine, hard to live with. Because you never know, you sell product and then you just wait if you will get a report or not, if customers will complain or not, and you never know what will be because you don't know exact reason. And the same glue sometimes works perfectly. For example, one friend that bought flip-flops, one of the first people, he basically, and I know that he's wearing them actually, because people ask me how long do they last, and that's very debatable question. Because depends how much you wear them, how heavy are you, and all this stuff. But I know that he was wearing them for 6 years, and every time I saw him, he was wearing them. At least in summer, we don't see each other a lot in winter because he's studying in a different place. But it was just incredible time of Zakistar flip-flops. I mean, it was not that incredible. It's incredible now looking back. But it's definitely not fun when you don't know what will happen after you sell the product. Especially if that's like your life project, not just some drop shipping stuff when you don't care about customers and your impact in the world and you just want to sell something. Here, everything was on the line. So the funniest story I have about glue, but that was really at the beginning. One lady bought, I think I even used different materials, glue and different rubber. It was not rubber. So one lady bought flip-flops, and after 14 days, she sent me email that flip-flops collapsed, or how to say. They just fall apart. And then I said, oh yeah, no problem, it's all handmade, mistakes happens. Sorry, I will repair, it's not a problem. Just that everything will be okay. And I repaired flip-flops for her. I sent back another pair. And after 14 days, maybe even less, I got another email from her. And she said flip-flops fall apart again. Now imagine that. And that's not even the funniest part. The funniest part is that then she said, now I will repair it myself. So basically, I don't know how I got so far. I don't even understand when I look back where I had the motivation. That you see, sometimes you just need to be persistent without understanding anything. Because I think if you just have this determination, you will get somewhere at least. Because when I look back, I dropped out of college because of this, and people were reporting me that the flip-flops fell apart, fall apart after 1 week. Of course, this was not everybody. This was just one story. Some people like them. But still, where to get motivation? And I didn't even know that it's healthy. I didn't even know if people can actually adapt, because some people, especially the soft one, they report like, my heat was hurting, it feels like I wore clouds, but not when they wear flip-flops, when they stop wearing flip-flops. So there was always a question, is this what I'm doing even a thing? It's even possible to make this like not just popular. You can make it popular, but will this stick? Is this a thing? And then I realized, yeah, This is gluing the sole. So now you can see the whole process of working. It takes 2 layers of glue, but this one is really good. This one is like top performer. If you don't wear these flip-flops every day like me, you will have them for 4 years or more. The only problem is that you will destroy pebbles. Pebbles will not be sharp enough anymore. If you don't know, these are flip-flops with pebbles, and this is new model. You see it has narrow straps. I created this because girls said that they want narrow straps. Now we will see if that's true. And this is the most beautiful pair in the world. What do you think? How would you rate it? Okay. I did one layer yesterday.
Podcast, where we discuss science and science-based tools for everyday life. I'm Andrew Huberman, and I'm a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford School of Medicine. My guest today is Alex Honnold. Alex Honnold is a professional rock climber. He's best known for successfully free soloing, meaning climbing with no ropes or latching on of any kind, El Capitan, also called El Cap, which is a nearly 3,000-foot climb in Yosemite National Park. It was also, of course, the topic and focus of the incredible movie Free Solo, which, if you haven't seen, you absolutely should watch. I've wanted to talk to Alex for a long time now. I'm not a rock climber. I've tried it a few times, but I'm extremely curious to understand Alex's mental frame around learning and training and his broader philosophy on life. My interest stems from the fact that Alex's free solo of El Cap and his other climbs make him one of the most accomplished and innovative athletes in all of history. And of course, the free solo of El Cap is extremely high risk and high consequence.
High risk, you can just die.
And how to merge the demands of daily work and family life with incremental training.
You see now I'm putting sole,
of any kind.
bottom of the
Alex makes
sole.
clear that it's essential and possible to build your capacity to exert effort, and how to do that in a regimented way so as to bring seemingly impossible goals within your reach.
You need
We
to
also
be
discuss how coming
very
to terms with one's own mortality is actually one of
accurate.
the best motivators for building a great life, and why most people hide from that reality, and as a result, end up living much smaller lives than they otherwise would. We also discuss training, literally what to do to build strength and endurance, not just for sake of rock climbing, but just generally. And that takes us into discussions about weight training, body weight training, running, hiking, and a bunch of other things that you can apply. Even if you have zero interest in rock climbing, today's conversation with Alex Honnold will definitely change the way that you think about your life, what you can make of it, and how to go about that. Before we begin, I'd like to emphasize that this podcast is separate from my teaching and research roles at Stanford. It is, however, part of my desire and effort to bring zero cost to consumer information about science and science-related tools to the general public. In keeping with that theme, today's episode does include sponsors. And now for my discussion with Alex Honnold. Alex Honnold, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I think free solo is remarkable for a ton of reasons, but as a good friend of mine, I think you know, Michael Muller, photographer, he said, before I'd seen the film, he said, it's wild because you're terrified as an observer the entire time, but you also know that Alex survives from the very beginning, which is a very unusual Quest.
I think some people don't know that.
Oh,
Some
really?
people watch the movie and they literally have no idea what it's about or what's going on. They spend the whole movie being like, oh my god, what's going to happen?
Okay, so I just spoiled it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, at this point, I'm like, nobody cares. It's old news.
Well, it's a spectacular feat, and we can go into that feat, but I'd actually like to drill in a little bit to just your process in general. I'm sure that's changed over time, and feel free to talk about that, but I'm very curious about notions of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, right? And I think Free Solo is also remarkable because you had cameras on you, obviously to be recorded, and you knew you had cameras on you, and yet I always thought of climbing as kind of a solitary sport, or things that people do in small groups, kind of off the things
To
that
be
change
very
now, social media,
accurate, and I
everything
think
can be listed
I'm
very
close
quickly
to mistake,
live,
but not
when you think
today.
about sort of the work that you're doing
I'm so
in terms of
experienced.
progressing and goals and kind of milestones for yourself, how do you envision that? Is this in like do you have a diary? Do you
I
have a
can
process where you sit back
even
and
correct some
awesome
almost
for
mistakes.
me to experience? Would people like to see it? What's your balance between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation for you?
So basically, I think climbing is always intrinsically motivated. I mean, since I started climbing when I was a child, I've always loved climbing. I love the movement of climbing. I love the feeling of it. I love the whole experience. Just everything about it's great. But then, now as a professional climber, obviously there is that extrinsic motivation as well, where you're like, oh, that's how I make a living. And so I think with the film Free Solo, is a really interesting balance of the two, where it's like, this is something that I'd love to do for myself, and even if no one else in the world existed, I'd want to do this thing. But then you also know that if the film turns out well, which it did, it's going to be great for your career, it's going to be great for whatever, and so like there is that extrinsic motivation as well, and so then you're always trying to parse out like which part is which, and because
Which part?
particularly with free soloing, you don't want to be too extrinsically motivated because you don't want to get pushed into something that
And
you're not
I'm
prepared
so
for.
proud of this. If you love someone, don't buy them diamonds,
Do something you
because
shouldn't.
they are
But
useless.
you're
They maybe look
constantly
good,
thinking things as a climber.
but they don't do
In order
shit.
to free solo
Buy flip-flops with diamonds. They massage your feet, they make your body strong.
beliefs where you kind of know that
Actually
any
makes you feel better.
pitch.
It depends. So for the hardest parts, I memorize, like for sure, memorize every aspect of it. But that's only the hardest parts. That's maybe like a third of the route. And then for the easiest third, and some of it is actually quite easy. Some of it's like even a non-climber could climb small sections of the wall. Like there are parts that are quite easy here and there. It's like not the bulk, but so for the easy parts, you just know that you can do it and you don't have to stress it. And then the medium parts, kind of like the remaining third of the wall, you sort of remember, kind of like you said, motifs. Like you might know the hardest part, and you just kind of know that it's going to be fine, but you don't have to memorize it per se.
Now,
But
this looks like a dunk, but the
just know
edge
all the things you
is
have to know.
still very. I will just
sensations.
go to the other
Feels
room
different.
and
Conditions change, right? I mean, weather conditions, heat on the rock, shadows on the rock.
Yeah, but not as much as you might think, because like I was only climbing in shade. Like in the springtime, that whole west side of the wall stays in the shade until 11 or noonish in the morning. So you go at 4 in the morning, and then you have sort of 8 hours of solid shade. So normally the temperature and the conditions feel relatively stable, and you spend the whole season working on it, so you kind of know that tomorrow is going to feel the same as it did today, roughly, and so it's all within a relatively narrow band, particularly in the spring, which is why I did it in the springtime. In the fall and the autumn, it's a little bit different because the sun is lower in the sky, so it gets sun much earlier, and it actually is way hotter, counterintuitively. It's like colder when it's in the shade, but then hotter when it's in the sun. Anyway, that makes it harder for climbing, obviously. But when I free soloed El Gap, I was spending 3 or 4 months a year in Yosemite every year, like a month or two every spring and every autumn. And so you're spending 4 months a year in a place, you just know how it feels. It's like you're used to getting up that area, used to climbing on the wall, and you're just kind of like, oh, it's going to be another beautiful day on the rock. And actually, the day that I did the free solo of El Gap, it was actually a little more humid and a little warmer than would have been optimal. Like it's not what I would have chosen, but that's just the way it was that day. And I was kind of like, well, this is my day. You kind of just have to do the thing. But it had been like overcast that night. When it's cloudy at night, the lows don't drop as low, and so I woke up and it was like kind of muggy-ish feeling. I was like, it's not great for being 4 in the morning. It was like, feels kind of gross. But I was like, this is my day. It was fine.
So you form a relationship with the rock. You kind of like learn to recognize its different states. When you did it and completed it, because I know you set out one day and then you called it
Yeah,
off.
that was in the autumn.
Okay.
That was the season before.
Mhm.
And basically the season was ending, like the storms were coming in the next week type deal, and it was like the season was winding down. It was kind of like, well, I should at least take a shot because I'd done a lot of prep and I felt mostly ready, and it turns out I just wasn't ready.
Also, we have
So,
different
I was
colors.
But that's kind of my
For
end of the
example,
season.
pink.
Like, I think I can squeak this in.
I'm
knowing that if I couldn't
waiting
squeak it
on
in,
the
then I'd have to
goal
wait 6
to
months. And with the pressure of the film crew and all that stuff, and that there are all these people working and waiting for you, you're kind of like, well, I would at least try to get this done because like all these people are waiting on me. But as it turns out, I just didn't quite have it yet. And then when I ultimately did do it in the spring, I was much better prepared, felt way better. The whole experience worked out better. So now in retrospect, I'm like, oh, I'm glad that it played out that way because, it was better. But at the time, I was like, oh God, I failed on this thing. All these people are watching. It's embarrassing. It's all very stressful at the time.
Yeah, the external pressures have to be, pretty mighty when especially when they're your friends. I guess one could imagine it like when it's just business, you can just be like, well, it's just business. But yeah, you have a lot of friends up there with you.
For me, the thing is that if I'm going to go climb the wall, I start climbing at 30, 20, or 5 or something. So that means some of my friends, to get in position at the top of the wall, are getting up at like 1 in the morning and then hiking to the top of the mountain with a heavy backpack. And if you're asking a bunch of your buddies to go hiking at 1 in the morning, like you better live up to your end of the thing, Like if you say you're going to do something, you better actually do the thing because your friends, obviously, no one's complaining, no one is pressuring me, but at the same time, you don't want to fail. Like,
Sure.
like it's pretty embarrassing if you tell someone you're going to do something and then you just can't do it.
Well, they certainly wanted the
Alex Honnold is the legend.
And they were all super positive and supportive, and it's all great, but you still can't help but feel that pressure.
Sure. Well, it certainly worked out. I'm curious, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being total certainty,
Okay.
along that trajectory, when you completed it, were there any phases where you felt you had to improvise against?
Look at this beauty. I will just furnish the edge. And that, like the saying goes. And it's so much better when it's finally summer and you step out and it's not that cold. I can wear flip-flops all the time. And now you stay here. This is the beautiful pair that we need to take care of the edges. Now will be very noisy, but don't get afraid. Okay. Not working. What the fuck? Machine is not working. I know why. There is no electricity. There is no energy. Okay, now we can't talk. Finito. You see? The most beautiful pair. Beautiful.